What is up, guys? This is Brett here from brettdev.com. If you're new here on this channel, I talk... Oh, fucking hell, man. Okay, stopped. What is up, guys? This is Brett here from brettdev.com, and on this channel, I talk about life as an expat out here in Thailand. If you're not new here, but you haven't subscribed yet, then make sure to click the button beneath this video, and also make sure that you check out the link in the top left corner of this screen, because that's going to be really helpful for you. Right, today in this video I want to talk about 5 lies or myths that are told about Thailand. Some of these you may already know about, some you might not. Stick around to the end, because the last one is going to be a big one that I'm assuming that most of you watching this will not know about, okay? So the first lie, the first myth, the first misconception that people have about Thailand, especially before they come here, or if they've never been here, is that Thailand is dangerous, that it's somehow not safe and you need to watch out, you're going to get your stuff stolen, you're going to get robbed, and all of that stuff, okay? Thailand is... If you look at Thailand and if you can compare it on the global crime index, there's some websites online, I'll show them up on the screen. Thailand is in fact safer than the US, it's safer than the UK, and it's safer even more so than Canada, all right? Thailand is an incredibly safe country, as are a lot of the other Asian countries, okay? China's very safe, Japan's very safe. Vietnam's very safe. This misconception about Thailand being a dangerous country is exactly that. It's a misconception. I don't know where it comes from, but it's completely untrue. Petty crime is almost non-existent. People here don't have to lock their doors when they go out of their houses. If you go into a coffee shop, you can leave your laptop, you can come back half an hour later and it will still be there. I have never witnessed any type of crime in the 6 years that I have been living here, other than perhaps the odd brawl at a bar, but typically that's actually with Westerners. Of course, there are big crimes that do happen. There are murders, there are big financial crimes, all that stuff, just like what happens all over the world. But for the everyday person that's visiting or living here, crime is not something you should really be concerned about, at least not in a big way. Obviously, keep your wits about you like you would anywhere, but yeah, it's a myth, it's a lie. Thailand is not a dangerous country. The second myth is that Thailand is a third world country. Now, this is kind of a really antiquated term, but people think that Thailand's a third world country, and when they think of a third world country, they think of extremely poor people. Now, does Thailand have a lot of poverty? Yes, of course it does. There are a lot of very poor people in Thailand, but there are also a lot of very rich people in Thailand. And a more interesting way to look at this, rather than thinking of first world, second world, third world, is through the lens of something called the Human Development Index. Okay, so this is kind of like a new way to measure countries, and it's based upon 3 things: life expectancy, access to education, and a decent standard of living. So if you want to know where Thailand ranks on that list, then I would strongly suggest you check out that. I'll put a link in the description. But Thailand is definitely not a third world country. Anybody that's been here will tell you that Thailand is far more advanced in many areas than Western countries, okay? If you go to the malls in Thailand, if you look at the high-speed internet that Thailand has, if you look at the cinemas, the movies, there's lots and lots of things that Thailand does a lot better than the West, and will actually leave you going back to the West thinking, oh my God, maybe I live in a third world country, maybe Thailand's the actual first world country. The thing with Thailand is there is a huge divide between rich and poor. However, the way Thailand is structured and the way it's laid out, there are really only a couple of really big cities in Thailand. The most dense population of people are in Bangkok, and the rest of the people are spread out all over the country. So what might be considered poverty for people that live out in the country, they live a very simple life. A lot of people live off the land. They don't have high income, so yes, they are poor, but it's not quite so black and white, okay? You can't look at it through the lens of, okay, Thailand's a third world country, and think in your mind that it's comparable to like poor places in Africa, for example. I mean, even poor places in Africa are changing. They're not like how you would traditionally have considered a third world country. These are kind of being called developing nations now, right? And as I said, if you come to Thailand, you'll see that it's simply not the case that Thailand is third world. The third misconception is that every Thai woman wants to date you or hook up with you or marry you. All right. So this is thrown about usually by people that have never ever been here. And it's just this ignorant bias that some people in the West have, especially if you tell them that you're going to be going to Thailand. They think that all Thai women are basically prostitutes because of what a couple of things that they might have seen in nightlife areas, and they assume that all Thai women are like that. A lot of dudes think that. A lot of dudes come here and they think that they can just hook up with any Thai girl that they want to. And that is not the case. As I said before, Thailand's a bit of a class system, and there are huge divides in the classes and the wealth that people have. A lot of Thai people, a lot of Thai females will actually have a lot more money than the Westerners that are coming here with that attitude. And to be frank, if you come to a place like where I live in Chiang Mai, and if you go to the Thai bars, to the Thai discos, you'll see what people refer to as high-so Thais, which means high society Thais, or even not high society, just regular Thais that earn regular incomes. A lot of Thais don't want to go with a foreigner. They won't come anywhere near you. They'll act like they're shy, they won't want to talk to you, but in reality, they just don't want to know you, okay? Their families don't want them to marry you. They want them to marry other Thai men. They work regular jobs. They work as bank managers. They work just like in any other society, and they're definitely not prostitutes, okay? There are a couple of small areas in Thailand that have that nightlife scene that is associated with that prostitution element and things like that, but the vast majority of Thailand, the vast majority of Thai women aren't going to hook up with you for money. On top of that, you can't buy a wife either. So this is something that I've seen like crazy feminists and stuff in the West say, oh, men go to Thailand to buy a wife. You can't buy a wife. No more so than you can buy a wife in the West by getting married and buying a house and all of that other stuff. You don't buy a wife in Thailand, and every Thai woman is not a prostitute, okay? That is absolute bullshit. With that said, that leads me on to my fourth lie and the fourth misconception that people have and maybe don't know, and that is that the Thai sex industry is built for foreigners. That is not true either, all right? You've got small areas that foreigners frequent and are the most likely people to go to, places like Pattaya and Walking Street. But what you may not know is that all over Thailand, Thailand has this seedy sex industry across the whole country, okay? In every single city, there are what are called love motels. Now, love motels are like hotels that you can go to for a short time and hook up with people, basically. And who goes to these love motels? Mostly not foreigners, it's Thais, okay? The Thai sex industry is built by Thais for Thais, okay? Thais engage in it more than the foreigners. There's even an expression in Thai called a gik. And what a gik is basically like a side chick. So a lot of Thai guys will be married and they'll have a gik, which is basically their girlfriend. The mafia would call that like your gomada, right? Or however they pronounce it. So Thais are promiscuous. Thailand is one of the most promiscuous countries in the world. I heard once it was second only to the Dutch. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to that, but there you go. It's not this whole industry and the way Thais are with their promiscuity, if that's how you pronounce it, is not built for foreigners. It was here before. The foreigners just came here and went to Pattaya and places like that. There are even websites that people have sent me that are based around this, hooking up with women and massage shops and all that, that are enormous and are completely based in Thai. Like, you couldn't even read it if you looked at it, all right? And you'll be blown away how many of these places exist just in a small town like this in Chiang Mai. It is incredible. It's not something I can obviously share on YouTube. Maybe hit the join button below. Come over to my Telegram group and I'll send it to you in there if you really want to see it. But yeah, the sex industry is not built for foreigners, guys. It's built for Thais. Lastly, number 5, and this is the last point, the last lie, the last misconception, and that is that Thais are trying to scam you. This whole notion of being scammed that foreigners have when they come to Thailand is just crazy, like looking over their shoulder. And to be frank, it's quite embarrassing when you live here and you know that Thais actually aren't trying to scam people, and then you see people looking at the Thais like they are trying to scam them. It's quite embarrassing, to be fair, because it's like accusing people of something that they're not trying to do. Thais generally don't scam people. Thais generally don't rob from people. Thais generally don't rob from foreigners, even backpackers that are coming on holiday. There's the odd story here and there, but theft in Thailand is incredibly low. Thais believe in karma, right? So they believe that if they do something bad to you, something bad's going to happen to them. If you're worried about getting scammed in Thailand, the only people you really need to worry about are other foreigners, okay? Thais will maybe charge you an extra $1 for a t-shirt, okay? Or they might charge you an extra $2 for a taxi ride. Foreigners, on the other hand, will sell you a business that doesn't exist and take your life savings for it. So if you're worried about getting scammed when you come to Thailand, do not sweat the Thais, but keep one eye open for the foreigners, because they're the ones that are out to scam you and are out to get you. Just like I said at the beginning of this video, crime is super low in Thailand. You don't have anything to worry about. With that said, that's it. That's the end of this video, guys. I hope you liked it. I thought it would be interesting. I thought it would be a bit fun, a little bit upbeat, show you 5 things that you didn't know. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, then check out this video. You're probably going to like it. And if you are seriously interested in moving to Thailand, then check out this link, because this will be really helpful for you. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.